Hello, my name is Ted Hulsy. I'm Vice President of Marketing at eFolder and your host for today's event. Welcome to the eFolder Partner Chat Series. This webinar series brings together leading eFolder partners for business-oriented discussions. Today we are joined by Howard Cunningham, President of Macro Systems. Howard and I will be discussing how he uses the Replibit solution and why he chooses to vault to himself. Before we go through the agenda, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be made available to everyone who registered for the event. You can also access it on eFolder's YouTube channel. With over 150 people registered for today's session, we have put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion for today's event either by streaming it on your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Questions are strongly encouraged throughout. We've planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's discussion, but you may submit them as we go along, and we will try to address your questions on the fly. Today's presentation follows a logical flow. First, we'll introduce today's partner, Howard Cunningham. Next, I'll give you a very brief overview of the Replibit solution, including different facets of the platform and the key technologies. Then we will open up the discussion with Howard, who will go over how and why he vaults client data to his own colo, as well as the benefits he sees from client satisfaction and an ROI point of view. Finally, we'll finish up with an interactive portion of Q&A. So with that, let's move into introducing Howard. So Howard, one of the things we always do kind of at the top of one of these discussions is have our business partner share a bit about their company. So tell us a little bit about Macro Systems, what you guys specialize in, and a little bit of background on your firm.
Okay, we were formed in 1997 outside of Washington, D.C. My office is about 12 miles from the White House, so we get all the fun and games. We're 90% managed services, about 10% break fix. Replibit is my primary, actually it's my only BDR solution. We have a separate file only solution. We also, run the BDRs, our vaults. We do our own, and we've been using Replibit now for 3.5 years.
Okay, talk to us a little bit about your migration to managed services. When did you kind of switch from a break-fix philosophy to managed services? What was that transition like?
Well, we have historically, even in the 90s, when we first got PC Anywhere to be able to get into some of our networks, we were doing a variation of managed services then. We would monitor the backups in the server remotely. In those days it was check in or PC Anywhere into machine and do it. And that kind of just moved on, and as we started moving everybody to fixed price services, and today we're doing user priced services as opposed to device backup or device pricing.
Okay.
And all of our clients are running the Replibit BDRs except for a couple.
Okay. And what's a typical client look like? I mean, are you specializing in any verticals? I mean, in terms of seat count, what's a typical client look like?
Well, we have clients from 2 users to 55 users. My average client, I think, has 10.5 computers. We won't talk about that half a computer. We don't have any specific vertical. We do have people in the legal, the financial, the medical, general office, and that sort of thing.
Okay, and what are some of the things you do to find new clients? I mean, what's working for you right now? I know we're talking a little bit in the green room, so to speak, about your experience with Robin Robbins, but what's kind of philosophically what's working for you kind of on the marketing front?
Well, we're doing cold calling. We have a firm that works with us to do cold calling, and that's working for us. We also go out and canvas. We have a little plastic bag with a rubber hammer, and to beat the paint out. We go door to door and drop off some of those. When I visit a potential client in a building we haven't been in, I drop off some material nearby, And in existing clients, we wander through the building every so often and drop off stuff to other people in that office. We also ask for referrals, so we're kind of getting new clients from several sources.
Okay. All right. Well, good. So let's see. I think what we should do at this point is just give many of the folks who are on the line may know a little bit about Replibit, but perhaps not. Replibit is a company that eFolder acquired in 2016. We acquired the firm after having a commercial relationship with Replibit for well over a year, and the product had become one of our fastest growing products. Back in those days, prior to the acquisition, Replibit was kind of unique because they brought the software platform to the table, and then eFolder really added the cloud component, where there's a lot of partners out there who wanted to vault to a service provider, and with eFolder's business model, this made kind of perfect sense. It was a business continuity platform designed specifically for managed service providers, and eFolder had a disaster recovery cloud service that married perfectly up to that software. The product became our fastest growing product, and we acquired the company. So today, we really position Replibit as a complete business continuity platform. If you so elect to, you as an MSP can get the software to back up the servers and workstations, the local appliance, and the cloud, where you back up the data and then have a disaster recovery cloud environment in the case of a kind of site-wide disaster. And the Replibit software has a global management component that allows you to deploy or to manage all of the vaults that you have deployed either out to the client side or in the cloud. So really, it's, in our view, a complete platform. But what we really are going to be talking about today is how we also make sure that this is a flexible and open platform for partners, where partners can elect to use certain components of the solution, but also either vault to themselves or build their own BDR appliances. And Howard's firm, he's happened to be doing both, vaulting to himself and building his own BDR appliances. So some of the technologies that make Replibit unique is our chain-free backup technology. This is really enhances the overall reliability of the backup experience and helps partners reduce costs in their business continuity practice. Chain-based backup solutions often are error-prone. You can have issues where a certain portion of a chain gets deleted, and therefore the continuity of that backup chain gets compromised. With chain-based backup solutions, you also they're really storage hogs, either locally or in the cloud, and so you often have to do reseed exercises with chain-based backup solutions to, for instance, conserve the cloud storage utilization. With Replibit, you don't need to do any of that. The product also helps partners reduce costs because it has really a rich set of automated testing capabilities and verifications of the backups. There's really deep ConnectWise integration. And then we'll be talking about how you can run Replibit really on any server-based hardware because it's built on top of Linux. And then, of course, the flexible deployment options, which is really the core topic for today's discussion. But just a quick picture of how this works. You install the Replibit agents on either servers or workstations or laptops. You have a local appliance at the client location where all the backups are stored. You can do virtualization locally on that appliance in the case of an everyday disaster. But there's built-in replication technology, obviously, in the product, which allows you to send and replicate the backups to an off-site cloud location in the case there's a site-wide disaster or a massive disaster that the client faces, and then you can virtualize in the cloud. Most of our partners do vault to eFolder, but a significant number of partners also vault to themselves. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today, is the reasons you'd want to do that. In terms of building out your business continuity practice, there's a large number of reasons why you'd want to do that potentially, and we're going to next have Howard talk about his experience with Replibit and have him share, what are some of the unique things he's doing with how he deploys the solution, and how he outfits the client with the required BDR appliance hardware and the like. So, Howard, let's just talk a little bit about, how does Replibit kind of fit into what you're trying to get done in terms of delivering business continuity to your clients?
Well, we've been trying to do this. Okay, so we've done tape-based backups for years. I never got into the USB drive. And we've always seen backups as critical. Even in our break-fix clients, we always got the alerts on their tape backups, whether they were working or not. Because in reality, if a backup fails, the client doesn't want to hear that they weren't paying us to manage it. Yeah, I wouldn't fix their problems, but at least I could call them and say your backups are failing. So then as we move forward, we tried the Zenith. That got my first BDR, and of course those of us that have done Zenith know some of their weird problems. So I got a taste of what imaging and quick restores would buy us. I didn't have very good luck with Zenith, so then I moved into Apasure. It worked, but it took a lot of time. And when I found Replibit, tried it a couple of times and it worked, and at that point couldn't move fast enough to get off of Apasure and onto Replibit.
And then how do you when you're thinking about your managed service offering, does every single client get BDR? I mean, is it baked into your overall solution?
Well,
is it a must-have? Is it a must-have, or how does that work out on a day-to-day basis with new clients as you bring them on board?
All right. So So for new clients, it's easy. We have a minimum. I've got a minimum antivirus, minimum firewall. I mean, if you're not using my products, then you're going to get my products, and the same thing on the backup. So new clients, unless I've got a real reason not to, they will get the Replibit as their backup solution as part of my offering. The older clients, we've converted most of our older clients to Replibit. We've still got, I don't know, 4 or 5 that we haven't managed to convert. I'm working on it, but everybody new gets Replibit, and in fact, in some cases, Replibit is my entry, my foot in the door to get into the site in the first place.
Okay, and what are some? On the clients that are where it is the entree, what are some of the kind of the key pain points they're experiencing that you're able to go in and kind of position around?
All right, so I'm working a nonprofit right now as we speak. We've been meeting with them off and on since November. Currently, they're using a combination of tape drives and I don't remember now, some internet-based backup, none of which are working very well. The tapes are intermittently erroring. The internet backup, in his case, there's no immediate restore, there's no local backup, so that if he has to restore something, he's got to go pull it from the cloud. If it's on the tapes, then we're back into that problem. Did the backups run? Can you actually restore? Because one of the things I discovered in his case is his tapes are about 5 years old, and we all know that's a problem. So, I was able to show him, the Replibit, I can do almost an instantaneous restore of files, the virtualization if we need to do it, and do it at a fairly competitive price. In fact, the software price for the Replibit is less than what he's paying for his internet backup in his tapes. And he's supplying the hardware because they've got a server that meets all the specs. So in his case, he's getting much better backup for a whole lot less pain and cost.
Okay. And just I want to remind everybody, if you have questions, just enter them as we go, and I will be monitoring the Q&A log and just ask Howard these questions on the fly. But a couple questions just about your journey in terms of getting to Replibit. I mean, Robert wants to know, did you ever look at StorageCraft Shadow Protect at any point?
Well, the answer is Zenith used Shadow Protect, and because of the chains, Zenith is why I did not like Shadow Protect. And that's where I learned about the chains and the problem with having all the chains. So I was soured on Shadow Protect because of Zenith. Shadow Protect was probably okay, but the way Zenith implemented it and well, Shadow Protect, we had chain problems there, and that's where I learned about the chains. And I really didn't want to do chains if I could avoid it. That's why I went to Aperture.
And what were some of the? I mean, you know, when you had had a few of those deployments and things went wrong, what were some of the drawbacks of the chain-based backup?
Well, I only did one, and that was in my office. I'm a big believer that as far as possible, I will, you know, eat my own dog food, if you will. So we bought a Zenith backup, and we got it going. And in the case of Zenith, their hardware was junk, but I should. Anyway, we were running in my office. We're running our ConnectWise server. We're running SBS, and I think at the time I had a third server, so we were doing 3 servers into the Zenith BDR. We had a problem with SBS, and that's where I learned about the bad chains. We wound up not losing anything, but it took a while to fix what I don't remember the details now, but we had to go back before the chain, as I recall, to actually get something back up and then move forward. I don't remember the gory details, but all I remember now that it was 5 or 6 years ago. We had a chain problem, and it was hard to fix it, to get around the broken chain.
Okay.
So told me no chains.
Okay. Let's see here. So and then one of the you know, one of the options that Replibit gives partners is the ability to vault to yourself. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there and why you made that decision.
Okay, so remember, my journey started prior to Replibit, when we did Aperture, and we had whatever Aperture called its equivalent of the vault in a data center out near Dulles Airport, a Tier 4 with all the SAS stuff. We were already doing that. So when I picked up Replibit, we transitioned all of our Aperture stuff into Replibit, again into a new vault out there. I was around since 1997. I was around in the .com bust in 2000 when companies disappeared overnight. So I'm really worried about companies disappearing. I think eFolder's got a great solution where they will do the back end, and that solves the back end problem for a lot of people. I happen to have space in the colo. I've got the experience. I've got the bandwidth to do it. So, and my clients like knowing that, you know, their stuff is sitting out near Dulles Airport. And of course the question is, well, what happens if the bomb drops? Well, tell you what, after the bomb drops on DC, you call me and we'll talk about it. Point being is, we're not going to be here, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. You know, we don't get tornadoes here, and the building is basically tornado-proof. I don't know that any building really is, but my clients are very happy that I have their data secured, and that there's, you know, guards and the fingerprint readers, the eyeball, all that. So it's safe, it's secured, it's got the generators. And if I have to, I can drive out there in 20 minutes and plug in a USB drive to the backup vault and recover data to it if I need to. So I don't have to wait for anybody to overnight something to me.
Right.
Or wait for hours for it to download.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So controlling your own destiny and controlling your own infrastructure has a whole host of very practical use cases and applications and solutions to problems you would otherwise have if you were relying on somebody else. And your clients appreciate knowing that their data is going from their client location to a private cloud environment that you control.
Right, and some of my clients are very concerned about, you know, where their data is, who has access to it. Having said that, I am contemplating my navel and seeing I may accidentally start using some of Replibit's back-end stuff. Some of their new appliances are really nice, and I may, for some clients, put some of that data at eFolder. So help
me to understand. Yeah, no, and just help me to understand kind of the mechanics. I mean, how much infrastructure? I mean, I think what everybody kind of wrestles with is, is, how much CapEx and labor do you need to put into running the infrastructure on your own versus just paying for that over time in a monthly charge with, the cloud provider like eFolder. So, I mean, help us to kind of understand the math you're doing there.
Well, I mean, we bought some Dell servers, because I can buy Dell easier and cheaper than I can do my favorite, which is IBM. The boxes are running; they run fine, because the colo is working great. They've got power, air conditioning. I've got the bandwidth I need, so the back end is working very well. We tend to have our problems on the appliance side and the machines being backed up. So from a CapEx, I actually hadn't calculated it through because this was done before eFolder showed up. So this is legacy. I'm probably going to have to add a vault here later this year, and I may put some of it down at eFolder. I don't rule out putting backups at eFolder. What I'm doing today is legacy, and I have no reason to change it today. It works for me, and I've already seen the reasons why it's working. It may change tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think just so everyone in the audience kind of understands the economics of it, if you one of the beauties of the Replibit platform is when you license the solution with just the software in a private cloud setting, and you're providing your own infrastructure, of course the licenses cost less, of course, right? So, I mean, clearly we have a fairly large number of MSPs that have run the numbers and said, look, I'm going to drive more profitability out of my solution, by vaulting to myself instead of relying on the eFolder cloud. And I get all these other benefits that Howard, you just shared in terms of the ability to have access to your own data, the ability to tell your clients that it's in a data center location that you completely control 100%, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that it's the ROI calculation here. Part of it, of course, is better gross margins, better profit margins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could you talk a little bit, Howard, about how you price and package, BDR for your clients on a retail basis?
It's a dartboard at the other end of my office. Sometimes I think that's what it is. Well, I look at several things. One is the cost of the licenses, and I, in essence, use the Replibit pricing. I basically use their retail pricing. I make money off of it, not a lot, obviously, because I'm more after the reoccurring on the monthly. So we look at doing an appliance for the client. I look at how much that's going to cost me, because I size the appliance, that's the on-site device, based on the client. One server with 500 gigabytes will be a vastly different server than like this nonprofit I'm doing, where they've got 3 servers, one of which happens to be a SQL server, one's a terminal server, and one's a file and print server. There's 2 different ones, and knowing how much data the client has, and I can customize my box, my appliance, based on what they want. And I charge a setup fee, which includes the time. We know, for instance, that it takes, I don't know, an hour or so to build an appliance. We know from history that it takes an hour or two to fix any problems with the existing servers. The Replibit software installs in about 5 or 10 minutes. The fun part gets is when you've got VSS errors that you've got to fix. So it's fairly straightforward, but we assume that we're going to spend, in my install fee, an hour to install it per server. I'm going to take me an hour to build the appliance, and that's built in there. And then we do, and I look how much space they're doing. And then if we're replicating out to my vault, there's a cost for that space. So I do basically 3 plans. One which is no offsite data, and the other 2, one gives them the middle tier is the one I actually want them to do, and that gives me, I hope, my plan is to get them enough space that where we can have 30 or 60 days in the vault in the data center. Because remember, the data center vault, that's for emergencies. That's not for day-to-day recoveries. That's what the on-site appliance is for. The on-site appliance is where we store the backups for 60, 90, 8, 9, 10 months. So depending on what the client wants, I need to make sure we've got enough space on the local device to have, upwards of a year of data. And Replibit makes that kind of easy to do. Without the change, you don't get all the space that the chains take up. So your space, keeping it for a year, it's not nearly as bad as it would be with Shadow Protector, where you had all the little chains. So I look at what my costs are going to be, and we know historically how much time we spend a month on these, and that's where we come up with our monthly number. And go ahead.
Yeah, and so talk a little bit about what your standard. I mean, I think we kind of talked about this earlier, but one of the other kind of platform-based strategies we have to let partners build their own BDR appliances, is to give that flexibility partner. That's something you're doing. I think you mentioned real briefly right before we started, you use a newer model of a Dell appliance, but talk a little bit about what your standard client deployment looks like.
All right, so our client deployment was IBM, and now it's Lenovo servers. We use relatively low-end Lenovo servers. And it depends on how much disk space I need. If we've got a small client that's got 500 gigabytes, then I don't need a very big, Lenovo server. One client we did that's got 4 servers, and they're all rack mounted. That took a much bigger, had to get up into the a bigger box. But I based the box on the big restriction in the appliances is how much disk space can I put in them. The little boxes won't give me enough space to do what I need to do. If I can't put 6 terabytes of space in a very small box, so the box has to go up. And my minimum spec for appliances is a minimum of quad core. I don't think you can buy those anymore. I think it's 6 cores now, and 32 gigabytes of memory. They're happy with, I think Replibit spec is quad core, but anyway. So we're using IBM new Lenovo's for the appliance, and under my agreement, we own the box, and part of the monthly pays for the maintenance on the box. Stuff does happen. We do have drives fail occasionally. And talking about drives, depending on the client, we either do SAS drives or SATA drives. If they're doing a lot of data and hitting it hard, then the SAS drives obviously run better. In the data center right now, I've got a pair of Dell R510s. One's got 24 terabytes of storage, and the other has 36 terabytes of storage in it. And we're looking at adding a R710 a little bit later this year. On the slide, I've learned that a good round number for disk space, you take the client's usage today and times 4, and that's what I need in the BDR. 2 and 3, 2 doesn't work at all. I really need at least 3, and we're going to 4 now.
Okay.
Disk space is cheap, so I'd rather have more space. And the local retention, the retention policies locally are different than the on the vault. So, in Replibit's view, is the local is where you have that's where you do your normal recoveries from. So you want to have the data going back a long time, and maybe maybe you have hourly backups. And you store those hourly backups for 7 days. Well, on the vault, I don't necessarily need all of those hourly backups because they get rolled up into the base image, and maybe we're only doing, one time a day, and we only keep the image in the data center for 30 days. But the point is they don't have to match.
Right, and so that differential retention policy is a pretty key feature set to help you really, appropriately back up the right level of recovery points locally versus in the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And a couple questions that have come in. Let's see here. Just talk a little bit. John has asked a couple questions about, what RMM you use. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing on the RMM front and how that, and do you put the RMM agents on the BDR appliance? How does that work?
Okay, so the answer is, okay, we're a big Kaseya shop. I bought a company, so I've also got lab tech. At any rate, since Replibit is Linux-based, I don't have any agents on the appliance or the vault. Yes, Kaseya's got an agent and LabTech does, but it doesn't buy me anything because the reporting I get, there's two types of reporting that I get out of Replibit now. One is they have a very tight ConnectWise integration. I'm a ConnectWise shop, so I care about that. You know, my rule today, if it doesn't integrate and talk to ConnectWise, I'm not interested in talking to you, Mr. Vendor. So we get all of our alerts that we care about come in from Replibit, from both the vaults and the appliances, back into ConnectWise, telling us when we get a problem. Something that's also there, but we don't use, is it will do email alerts. Well, I don't use the email alerts because guess what? I've got ConnectWise. But this new nonprofit I'm doing, he's going to get us set up with the email alerts so that he gets the emails on problems going on with his backups. So, and I don't have to deal with the emails. Replibit also has something called the Global Management Portal. It's a single pane of glass. I hate that. A single pane of glass that gives me a quick view into all of the appliances, all of the, well, what they call protected systems. So I can tell from that screen when the last backup ran, when the last replication ran, is the agent online, is the replication online. It also tells me how much disk space is being used if I care from that screen. The ConnectWise integration upgrades the, updates the config, so I'm sorry, the billing information. So if we're billing by space, that's updated in ConnectWise and I don't have to manually do it. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely. So deep ConnectWise integration, global management portal, you know, that's how you manage your complete deployment from the appliance to the vault, and keep an eye on, you know, any sort of issues that need to be addressed. So great, very helpful. Tom has kind of a technical question just from a deployment perspective, and let me just read this real quick. How would you configure a solution for a client with 12 terabytes of production data across 2 servers with virtual spin-up capability? Both servers are file only, not SQL or other apps.
Oh, wow. So 12 terabytes, that means you're going to need 50 terabytes. Don't know. I would have to think about that one a little bit. That probably would be, I don't know. That's a lot of space, and I suspect a lot of that space does not need to be online. That accidentally may need to be a third server in there where the archive data is moved off, and it may it gets backed up, but the production stuff probably needs to be more often. Oh wow, I've not had to worry with that one. I'll have to noodle that one.
Okay,
sorry, I
so
don't have a good answer.
a really large deployment, but you know, you guys can all track Howard down. I'm not throwing him out there as the support department, but if you want to drop him a line on LinkedIn, you could probably grab him. Let's see here. So Gerald wants to dig in on the ConnectWise support a little bit more. He says, you speak of tight ConnectWise integration. What is it you actually get into ConnectWise from Replibit?
Well, hold on a second. Let me just give me a moment. Let me get my appliance in my office up because I'm not looking at it, but I will tell you briefly. And with the way Replibit is set up, you can connect into the appliances and do your management, which is what I'm going to do here in the office. Or you can get to it from the Global Management Portal. All right, so we log in. And the backups are encrypted. Well, you control the encryption keys. eFolder doesn't, and they can't do a mount of VM without the encryption key. So that's one more thing that protects your clients. So let me click on this server. Let me go down into settings. And where's my ConnectWise? All right, so we're going to click on ticket settings. All right, so I have the billing integration, and there it tells me, what customer, the agreement, and the addition. And then under ticket settings, we have, as I expand this screen out, okay, so it'll report what board do you want stuff to go to, new ticket name, mapping, and closed tickets. So, and you can enable each of these. So I have successful backups, and we want to know about successful backups, fail backups, missed backups, enable ticket creation for Replibit boot VM check, agent status, is it online or offline, backup metadata, how much disk usage, if you have a license problem, a license is unavailable. That happens if you spin up you try to back up a new device and you forget to add a license. You'll kind of scratch your head and go, why is it not showing up? I need my license. What's the pool status, which is their RAID array, they call it a disk pool, protected system status, and vault replication. So those are all the categories that we have to integrate back into ConnectWise.
So Tom, hopefully that was helpful. I didn't invite Howard to do a screen share on this, but I think
I could do that.
Unless there's private information, I wouldn't want to do that if.
Nah.
But let me see if I can just. I'm going to make you the presenter. If you just want to show that screen you just showed.
Okay, show my screen, and yep, yeah, there it is.
Okay, so if you just want to maybe show off what you just shared, so.
Okay, so that you should see my ConnectWise settings in the macro BDR.
Yep, we got it. Yep.
Okay, and that's the the settings and the categories you can enable, disable them at will. We set it and let it go.
Okay. Yeah. So deep, deep ConnectWise integration. So let's see here. There was a question. Russell wants to know, is there an environment model or overall customer data size that you don't think is a good fit for Replibit? I mean, is there a deployment size where we kind of maybe outstrip what Replibit can do for your clients?
Well, because most of my clients are smaller. I think the biggest site that we're backing up right now is about 6 terabytes. No, well, I don't know where we would run out of room. That 12 might be. I don't have one that big.
Yeah, so it hasn't happened yet, I guess is the point. I mean, I think, our sweet spot is the SMB market, in the kind of the 10 to 50 seat range is kind of a, a sweet spot, and then, what the typical, server deployments look like in those sorts of clients. Anyway, so that's, I mean, we're not aware of, any, environments that just don't fit the bill right now. But let's see. So I think we answered Gerald's questions around ConnectWise integration. Let me just dig in here a little bit more. Aaron wants to know about AutoTask integration, something similar to what we're demonstrating here with ConnectWise. That hasn't been committed on the roadmap. So sorry to say that we just don't have a committed quarterly date for that. We do tons of business with tons of partners that use AutoTask instead of ConnectWise. We just we haven't yet we don't yet have a date on when that's coming, but that is on. I mean, most all other eFolder products, backup, BDR for Shadow Protect, Anchor, those products all do support AutoTask integration. So we're very familiar with how to do it. We just don't yet have a committed date on that. And let me, Howard, unless there's anything else to show that's noteworthy.
Well, here's, since you're talking about Autotask, here's the email setup in Replibit where it can email much of the same information. So I would think for Autotask integration today, you'd have to do the emails and get the emails from Replibit. And if my screen is still shared, you're seeing it.
Yeah, so excellent point. So there's other ways to parse the data into Autotask for alerting. So another a couple technical questions from Robert. This one says, how do you handle the system reserve partition issue with your Dell servers? Do you rebuild all the Dell servers without that partition? That's maybe a little deep. I don't know if...
Well, it sounds like he's referring to the 510s. Don't use any of it. Those are all running their version of Linux. So there is no reserve partition. If you're asking about the actual servers themselves in production, for what Replibit calls the protected systems, Replibit does in fact get the reserve system partition and backs it up.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what about clients where you have virtual machines? How are you using Replibit in those sorts of deployments?
Okay. Everything we do today is on top of VMware. Even if it's one server and one, if it's one guest server, one protected system, if you will, it's on top of VMware. So, and we're only backing up the guests. I don't have clients that have a lot of physicals or even virtual servers, so we don't try to back up at the VMware level at this point. So I use Replibit to get the virtual guest, if you will. That's most of ours are that way.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, let me see. Let's kind of go back to the slides here. Show my screen again. Okay. Just scanning the Q&A log here. So this is kind of a big question, but Howard, let's see if you can handle it. Let's go. So John gives a scenario where he had a client outage. He said, over the holidays, I had a client using a different BDR solution. She had to restore 6 Exchange mailboxes from many tapes. Something about it with Replibit, would this have been? The question's a little broken up. Many tapes. So anyway, I mean, could you just talk about a typical outage and experience you've had with restoring client systems? Maybe is a better way to look at this.
Okay, so using that example, what we would do. All right, so when we go to Replibit gives us multiple ways to mount an image that we can use it. I can mount it just as an NTFS file share, if you will. I can mount it as actually a nice SCSI file share, so you can get to it over, to the LAN. I can mount it as a virtual machine, so it's actually running. And when I mount it as a virtual machine, I can mount it either as a test mount, which gives me the machine running with no IP address, with no network in it. Because when you go to test your virtualization, you don't want to bring up the backup server on the same network active with the production server. Windows kind of doesn't like that. So, and you can also bring it up as a live server where you've got a network connection. So what we would do, probably in that case, is mount the server. I would probably mount the server without a network in a test environment, and that brings everything up and running. I can run Exchange at that point, and at that point, I can now, and remember, Replibit lets me pick the point in time. So if the reason you're having to go recover from tapes is that today the server blew up and you corrupted stuff, I can now go back and restore, say, the 6 a.m. this morning image, if that's what the timestamp is, and I can recover from that. I can either, if you mount it as an NTFS share, you can pull the message stores out, just copy them out, or you can mount the server as a VM and then export out of Exchange at that point.
Excellent.
Similar to what you're doing with the tape, but not having to pull it off the tapes, because we all know about tapes.
Excellent. Okay, great handling of that question. So another one, Russell says, what is Howard's backup confirmation standard operating procedure? Do you trust the nightly boot checks and delay your actual manual tests, or do you keep traditional manual tests?
All of the above. So what we do is we, every morning, for years we were always paranoid about backups. Every morning we look in GMP and we look to see, I don't trust that I'm going to get the alerts out of ConnectWise. I mean, just 20 years has told me don't trust any of that. So we do a couple of things. Every morning we look to see when the last backup was. We use GMP and look to see when the last backup was. And, it should all be today. If we've got a backup from yesterday or replication from yesterday, then that's a problem we need to go work on. If the agent's showing offline, we go work it. In some cases, the agent offline is because it's just not reporting for whatever reason. That screen also gives me the boot. I can see on that screen what the boot screen should look like. You can tell it's a Windows 2008 versus 2012 because the screen, the logon screen is different. The other thing that we do is we, on a monthly basis, we do server checks for clients. If you're under agreement, every month we check every server. We log in, and we're not taking hours of doing this. We're talking out long enough to look in, check the disk space, check the error logs, check the RAID array, check the antivirus. What takes us 10 minutes maybe if we're lucky. Also do the same thing on the Replibit appliances. We actually log in, we mount it, and we actually do a physical test mount of the various servers. It doesn't take long to do this, and if it fails at that point, then we know we have a problem we need to go fix. Oh, we take it one step farther. We don't just wait for a login screen, we actually log in. So we want to know that we can actually really, honest to gosh, log into the box.
Well, there you have it, Russell. Belt and suspenders, all of the above.
And it's not because I don't trust Replibit. It's just I got 20 years of backups being flaky, and we're proud to say we've never had a backup we couldn't restore from. Last night's tape may have failed, but the one before worked.
Well, there you go. Okay, well, great. I think that pretty much exhausts all of our questions. Howard,
Hey,
any final thoughts? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the screen that you have up, it just hit me, is one of the things that Replibit does. Okay, cool. An appliance can replicate to both your vaults in your data center if you want for one server, and another server you can Replibit to a different vault, or to eFolder. So the replications don't have to go to the same vault. They can go to different vaults. Yep.
Okay. Well, great final technical detail and comment. Howard, I want to thank you very much for sharing, all of your insights and wisdom with how you're leveraging the Replibit product to grow your business. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Getting started with eFolder on Replibit is very easy today. We really are passionate around partners kicking the tires, trying the solution out themselves, getting in really at the ground floor. There's really no minimums, so to speak, to get in the door and actually start leveraging the product. We want to grow with you as you expand your Replibit deployment. So, everybody who's attended today's session, if you're not yet working with Replibit, you can either talk to your eFolder account manager if you're an existing partner, or if you're not yet doing business with eFolder, a salesperson will reach out and invite you to have a one-on-one discussion with a product specialist, and it's really easy to get started. So Want to encourage you, if you heard something good today or intriguing that can potentially help in your business, give us a try and take us up on the offer of a one-on-one conversation with a product specialist. And Howard, again, thank you very much for all of the observations and experiences you shared today. This is Ted Hulsy signing off from another eFolder Partner Chat webinar, and we look forward to seeing you all sometime soon. Thanks a lot and have a great day, everybody. Take care.